As your national president, I'd like to call the 2020 Executive Board Installation Meeting to order. The purpose of today's meeting is to thank the outgoing officers for their service to FMCA and welcome and install the newly elected area vice presidents and to have the executive board take their oath of office. I've asked one of our chaplains, Dane Bailey, to be with us this morning to give our invocation and also actually doing the ceremony, swearing in the new officers and reaffirming the commitments of our existing officers. So I appreciate Dane for taking the time to do this. The first thing before I have Dane do the invocation is I'd like to let everybody know that 2020 has been a very unusual, terrible year that we're never going to forget, but we'd like to forget about it. And I assure you that on this day today, we should have been in Lincoln, Nebraska, doing this in an auditorium and in front of hundreds of people. And I'm so sorry that it's not possible. And I agree with old Joe Wright saying these Zoom meetings don't work effectively as being in person. And I truly hope this will go away in the near future so we can start meeting in person. And also the ceremony we're going to do on the Zoom today, I hope that whenever we're able to meet in person again, you outgoing officers today, if I have something to do with it, we will be having this ceremony again on a stage in person whenever we're back together. And so hope that you stay with us and this pandemic will be over sooner than later and we'll all get back to normal traveling. As you can see, we went down to Fort Myers this morning just to get the motorhome running a little bit. Dane, would you give us the invocation, please?
Yes, I would. And as I look through the list of people and the people I've seen on the screen, you know, the interesting and the neat thing for me is I know most of you personally. And so it's a real honor here. So at this moment, let us pray. Our loving God, the one who is the name above all names, the one who we're told there will be that day when every knee will bow and every tongue confess that you are Lord. We come before you today thanking you that we can do something like this. Thanking you that we have the FMCA, that we have a group that still honors you. We also want to thank you that we have this group of people who have come forward voluntarily to lead this group, to guide. And Lord, we thank you for each one of their commitment to FMCA. So now, Lord, I would ask that as John conducts this meeting this morning, as we go through the installation of the new officers and reaffirming of those who are existing, Lord, we just keep in mind that these people are in position really because you are the one who has allowed that to take place. So again, guide, direct, Lord, we look to you. We thank you for who you are and what you mean to us. We pray this in your holy and most precious name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dane. Appreciate it. Secretary's report. Kathy, would you like to give your report?
Can you hear anything?
Yes, I would. The minutes for the June.
All right.
The minutes for the June 5th, July 14th, and August 6th.
Hang on, I'm sorry. Could
Okay.
everybody mute their volume? I'm getting feedback up here, and when you just mute it. Okay, Kathy, let's try it again.
Okay, the minutes for June the 5th, July the 14th, and August the 6th were approved by the executive board by email, and they are available for your review online, and I ask that they be accepted.
Are there any corrections to any of these minutes? If not, they stand approved for file. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Okay, recognition of our outgoing officers. You know, we do this all the time. Every year, there's a continuous influx of new people coming on board and old people going off. We try to give our outgoing officers at least a token of the appreciation that FMCA feels for the years of service that you've devoted to this organization. But in recognition for our outgoing officers, the officers do receive a special recognition award. The award reads as follows. It starts out with the name of the outgoing officer, and it says, "In sincere appreciation of outstanding service on FMCA's executive board." And it's signed Family Motor Coach Association, August of 2020. In addition to this special recognition award, the outgoing officers receive their past national officer attachment plates and their past national officer badges. I hope everyone's received those. They had to be sent out by mail. So if you have not received your award or your red badge or your eyebrows, please let Penny know and she will make sure that that's done for you. Will the outgoing officers please wave to acknowledge the well-deserved recognition as I call your name? On behalf of FMCA, I would like to thank you for your service. We all know that doing this job is much easier if you have the support and assistance from your spouses. Everybody knows that. So Bill Mallory is going out, Eastern Area Vice President, his wife Garnetta. Thank you, Bill and Garnetta. Les Naylor, Great Lakes Area Vice President, and his wife Sue. Thank you, Les. George Shrimp, International Area Vice President, and his wife Maxine. Thank you so much for your service. And last but not least, Long Cross, Western Area Vice President, and his wife Christine. Thank you very much. I would like to call back on Dane, and Dane will take over and administer the oath of office to the newly and re-elected officers. Dane, it's yours.
Do I need to be over there? Yeah, I should. Everybody else is talking this there.
Dane, you have to unmute yourself.
Got it. I'm back with you. All right. Again, it is my pleasure to be able to administer the oath of office to you folks. And again, I appreciate John asking me if I would do it. So at this point, it is my pleasure to administer the oath of office to the newly elected and re-elected members who shall serve this coming year as our national officers of FMCA, as well as reaffirming the oath of office for those who took office last year in Minot, North Dakota. We have our national president, John Walker, and his wife, Sandra, national senior vice president, Rhett Porter, his wife, Claire, national secretary, Kathy Baylock, and husband, Andy, national treasurer, John Reynolds, and his wife, Jane. Newly elected to the Eastern area, Gay Young, her husband, Jerry. Newly elected to the Great Lakes, Ken Lewis, his wife, Linda. Newly elected for the international area, Paul Mitchell, his wife, Lisa. Re-elected from the Northwest area, Don Schluss and his wife, Barbara. Newly elected from the Western area, Bob Galk and his wife, Debbie. Midwest Area Vice President, Gary Milner, his wife, Glenda. The Northeast Area Vice President, John Trebhagen and his wife, Sharon. Rocky Mountain Area Vice President, Jamie Erickson, his wife, Galena, and South Central Area Vice President, Joe Wright, his wife, Nancy. And from the Southeast Area, Vice President Betty Duncan and her husband, Jim. And our immediate past president, Charlie Adcock, and his wife, Gloria. The 10 area vice presidents, the 4 national officers, and the immediate past president as an advisor together become the National Executive Board of FMCA and the board of directors of its subsidiary, Family Motor Coaching Incorporated. Their duties are to act for the governing board in ordinary matters between the governing board's regular meetings, exercise governance responsibilities and physical oversight, except for those that are specifically reserved for the governing board, approve specific bylaws and member policies and procedures and reviews and approves budgets, engages in strategic planning for the organization and submits these to the governing board for concurrence, and to act for the good of the association of its members. Will the officers please raise your right hands, and I will ask all of you to affirm that you each will accept the responsibilities of your respective office as defined in the association's constitution, bylaws, and the policies and procedures, and that each of you will agree to conduct yourselves in a manner consistent with the code of ethics of this association, and that you each will act for the good of the association and its members. If you agree to these requirements of office, please say I do, or wave your hand, or let us know. Congratulations. Thank you for serving the Family Motor Coach Association. Thank you. And I now turn the meeting back to John.
Thank you, Dane. Appreciate that very much. And congratulations to all of our official new AVPs. And thank you all for the service of those that are going out of office. I'd like to thank everybody for attending the Executive Board installation meeting today. FMCA would normally conduct this ceremony at the annual membership meeting in person at the International Convention, which would have been held in Lincoln, Nebraska. Since the convention was canceled, it was not possible to hold an annual membership meeting. The date of this meeting has been published for almost a year. For our gallery and observers, and it seems like my little screen says there's 58 of them out there, we have the staff has randomly chosen 10 of you to receive a $25 gift card for observing today's meeting and helping us celebrate the incoming and outgoing officers. Again, thank you for all that attended our meeting today. This meeting is adjourned. If you would like to stay on, we will go into the organizational meeting of our new board at this time, and we thank you. And I think staff will move the outgoing officers into the observatory area. All right, that was fast. And Dane, thank you for being with us. Kathy, would you like to give the roll call of our new board?
Yes, I will. Betty Duncan,
Here.
Jamie Erickson,
Present.
Bob Galt,
Here.
Ken Lewis,
Here.
Gary Milner,
Yes, but I have no
Paul
video.
Paul Mitchell.
Secretary, you can leave now.
Okay. Paul Mitchell. I think he's here. Brett Porter,
Here, but no video.
John Reynolds. John Reynolds.
Kathy.
Yes, I see you. Don Sluice.
Here.
John Trapphagen.
Here.
Joe Wright. I know he's here.
Working on the
Gay-
video.
Gay Young.
Here.
Charlie Adcock.
Here.
I'm gonna tell
Would you like me to call the staff again, John?
Please do.
Yes. Ann Baumgartner.
Yes, I'm here.
Dan Ball. Jason Gabbard.
You know I'm here.
I know.
Yeah.
Penny.
I'm here.
Gordon Miller. Pamela Kay.
I'm here.
Caitlin Kroll. Chris Smith.
Here.
And Doug Eulenbrock. Did I miss anyone?
Or is everybody, who's missing on the video? There comes a couple more.
Paul Mitchell didn't say yes, but I think he's here.
Paul? Can staff, Penny or Chris, are you trying to get him back?
Yeah, we're working on it.
All right, isn't the technology beautiful?
John, I checked and his little telephone was down there in the corner on the third page.
All right. Paul, can you hear us? Audio?
It will not allow me to bring Paul up on video. I think he's just connected to audio right now.
Okay. All right, we'll keep on going here and hope that he can get his video back. I hope that he's listening to us, that he is present, because everyone saw him. I call this meeting to order. In accordance with corporation requirements, Family Motor Coach Association and Family Motor Coaching are required to meet in order to adopt resolutions for the ensuing year. These resolutions are to establish bank accounts, signatures for those accounts, and other miscellaneous resolutions that may be necessary. FMCA is a not-for-profit corporation in the state of Ohio and is defined as a social club exempt from federal income tax under the IRS Code Section 501C sub 7. Family Motor Coaching is a wholly owned subsidiary of FMCA that is a for-profit corporation which is subject to being taxed as such. Family Motor Coaching Inc.'s main activities are publishing our magazine and sponsoring international conventions. The voting members of the executive board also serve as the board of directors of Family Motor Coaching Inc. The next item is the banking resolutions. We have to go through this. Legally, I have to blurb them out, so stay with me. What I think we'll do to save time is I'll go through each of these resolutions and we'll vote on them all on one motion unless someone has an objection. If you do, just object and we'll take them one at a time. I don't see anything. Number one, a resolution to establish our bank. It'd be the checking account, credit card deposits, and the money market accounts that will go to U.S. Bank. Number two, resolution to establish signatures on checking accounts. Those signatures will be the National President, John Walker, National Treasurer, John Reynolds, the Director of Communications, Pamela Kay, Director of Chapters and Governance, Penny Gordmiller, Director of Events, Doug Eulenbrock, Director of Membership and Marketing, Dan Ball, Editor, Robin Gould, and Members Records Coordinator, Kathy Gebhardt. 2 signatures are required for any amount over $5,000. Number 3, resolution to establish our investment firm, the Windsor Group Limited. Number 4, a resolution to establish signatures on investment accounts. Those signatures are the National President, John Walker, National Treasurer, John Reynolds, and CEO, Chris Smith. Number 5, resolution to establish signatures on convention accounts. The National Treasurer, John Reynolds, National Senior Vice President, Rhett Porter, Director of Chapters and Governance, Penny Gordemiller, Director of Membership and Marketing, Dan Ball, and Assistant Controller, Brian Basic. Resolution 6, resolution to establish signature on notes. Signatures, President, John Walker, Senior Vice President, Rhett Porter, Secretary, Kathy Baylock, and Treasurer, John Reynolds. 2 signatures are required for any note. Number 7, a resolution to establish legal counsel to be named by the President as necessary. Number 8, a resolution to establish accounting firms other than the auditing firm. This is to be named by the President as necessary. And resolution number 9, the resolution to establish an FMCA parliamentarian to be named by the President as necessary. Would someone like to make a motion to accept these 9 resolutions?
I'll make a motion to accept the 9 resolutions.
Who did?
Seconded.
John Reynolds. I'd have a second.
Second.
Rhett Porter seconds. Discussion. There's a lot of accounts, a lot of resolutions that we're legally required to do to run this business. Any other discussion? If not, let's on these, let's just show your hands. If you're in favor of this motion, just raise your hand and keep it there until Kathy can see everybody.
Kathy, just to let you know that Paul Mitchell can hear everything we're saying.
I see him back on the screen on my computer. All right. Motion passes. Did you? Okay. New business. Committee member appointments. As you know, every new year, new administrative year, the president appoints members for committees. And this is based upon recommendations from you, the executive board, and any member of FMCA. And what I'd like for you to know, next week, I will be sending out a list of the committees that will be established for the next administrative year. And I'll also include the charges that the committee is responsible for accomplishing next year. I would very hope that you would submit nominations for these committees. All I ask is that you, when you recommend someone, give me a reason why you're recommending them, and we need a short bio of the qualifications the member has to bring to the table. The member engagement committee led by Ken Carpenter has a pool of several hundred members where they volunteered to serve on committees if asked, and their the pool will show these people and some of their qualifications. And I would encourage the board to look through these, this pool of members in helping come up with some names. Ken Carpenter called me yesterday and said that if any AVP has any question about trying to get help in securing qualified people for the committees, to give him a call. He'd be glad to help you, put you in touch with somebody. Any questions about committees? I'm going to let this go for the next several weeks in September, and then we'll make appointments. I want to give everybody a chance to try to find very qualified people for our committees. Next item is the nominating committee election. Penny has contacted everybody, and the way the nominating committee works, each AVP will submit 2 names or up to 2 names to the president. And then the president will select one of those names from each area. And then those names will be sent to the governing board for an election. The P&Ps tell you how that's done and what the time frame is. I think that we've received nominees from everybody except maybe 1 or 2 areas are still looking on maybe for one name. But I think we do have at least one name from each area so far. So thank you very much for that. At this time, I'll let the CEO give his report to the board. Chris, are you with us?
I am.
All right.
Okay. I have three quick things to discuss. As you guys know, this past week we announced a partnership with Dynamax and Forest River. There were some questions about what all that entails, and there's kind of 5 main points to this partnership. One is a special offer for $25 off a new join is made to Dynamax, Forest River Motorized, and the Frog Group, which is the Forest River Owners Group. That's sent via email on our behalf to their list of 250,000 owners and Frog members of that group. 250,000 people twice a year. So they'll send that on our behalf twice a year to that list of people. That same special offer of $25 off is in paper form is placed into each new Dynamax and Forest River Motorized RV leaving the factory. So that's about 5,500 new units they produce per year. We'll have that paper offer in each unit that the buyer can take advantage of. We provide FMCA sponsored blog content for the Frog Group quarterly. So they will do a blog post once a quarter talking about FMCA to their members. We're also going to do monthly social media swaps. You know, we like or share their social media posts and they'll do the same for us. In exchange for all of those things, we are providing them a mention in the mile marker newsletter 2 times each year. So that's kind of the 5 main points of the agreement with Dynamax, and most of the partnerships are somewhat similar to that. Some of the nuances of what we provide and what they provide is different, but that's kind of a common common terms of those agreements. The next thing I wanted to talk about, just touch on staffing real quick. The work from home has been extended until 10/1. As most people know, our staff has, for the most part, been working remotely. I don't think any members are noticing the change. The same service we've provided is still being provided. People just aren't in the office right now. And I think, you know, as a lot of you know, we went from 44 down to 30 on the staff side. I think staff's done an admirable job of kind of taking on more responsibility and making that work and providing the same service. I fear that while it's worked for 5 months, I think at some point that may become unsustainable to continue to have 30 people doing the job of 44. Now, I'm not suggesting we need to go back to 44 by any means, but I'll give you just one example that's come up this past week. Our Tech Connect benefit, we have 2,200 members on that program. We provide all of the tech support for that program. Currently, we have 1 full-time employee who also does some IT work as well. That is the main contact. Now, at prior staffing levels, that was not the case because we did have a call center that took overflow calls, which freed up membership to provide support as well for Tech Connect. Well, we don't have the call center anymore. We have 3 full-time membership people doing servicing 143,000 members. So they do not have extra time to provide support to Tech Connect. And that's just an example where I think we will need at least a part-time person to provide support for Tech Connect. And then the third thing is we are in the process of interviewing potential companies to come in as an independent marketing consultant. We've talked about this for a little while. This would not be anywhere close to the same vein as the MCA marketing initiative we took on a few years back. This is more of just an overview of what we're doing. As we know, we had some growth and then we've kind of hit a rough patch here, and then we need a new set of eyes just to look at what we're doing from the marketing perspective, our membership efforts, and trying to maybe get some ideas and suggestions that we're not coming up with now. So we are in the process of that. Hopefully we'll have that wrapped up before the end of September and bring someone on. That's all I got.
Does anyone have any questions for Chris? Yes, sir.
I do, John.
Gary does.
Chris, you said it's not going to be in the same vein as MCA was, but is it right now maybe a bad time of year for us going into the winter months when sign up is typically a little lower and we're not traveling now? When you say bring them on, are you talking about signing a contract with them? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we would have just a consulting agreement like we've had before with other entities. I think you have a point. Yes, we know that the winter months are a little slower and especially with what's going on, but I think no matter what time of the year we do it, it's going to take a while to bring a consultant in, to have them review everything we do, to make suggestions, to implement those suggestions, to try them out takes time. So I think while it's slower, it's still worthwhile to do it now. So then we're ready to go. We have all these things implemented they suggest when it does come time to pick back up in the spring.
Okay, it just seems like to me, April, May would be a great time for them to hit their feet running, but you're right, it takes some planning time.
Anybody
Yeah.
else?
Yeah, my fear is just if we wait till April or May, it may take a month, 2, 3 to get those things implemented. Then we're kind of just catching the end of the summer. So that's kind of my thought on it.
And again, this guy's not an employee. He's a contract person from the outside that comes in and sort of takes a look at what we're doing marketing wise. And our marketing department was established as a result of the MCA agreement, which was a full-blown huge project to completely revamp everything FMCA does. And as we became attuned and understood the marketing process, we established our department, and many of those MCA initiatives are still being followed today. But it seems like that now would be a good time to have another set of eyes sort of look at what we're doing and help us tweak things and recommend some different initiatives maybe to address the decline in the membership. Anybody else? Good question, Gary. Nobody? Okay. I'd like to point out the staff deal. I talk to the staff every day, and they are doing an admirable job working from home. The governor has extended the work thing for another month. I think the Tech Connect question is an issue that's sort of, it's burning in that this is an everyday thing. People that have our program, and it's a very successful MiFi program, they do have questions, and they've always had questions. We've always had plenty of staff to answer them. But we are feeling the crunch of not having people to help on these areas. And as time goes on, we'll have to start bringing some people back in some manner. Hopefully part-time people can start out, and if they work out, we can consider them full-time, that sort of stuff. Okay, thanks a lot, Chris, appreciate it. Yesterday you had the risk management committee. They've been studying the FMCA assist program for many, many, many months. And if you were on that call, they have sent out questionnaires, requests for proposals. They've received them. I've asked Ned Boston to present that report to the board so you can accept their report. And Ned, are you on the call?
I'm on the call, but with no video.
All right. Do you have ability for video, or do you want to do your report?
Yeah. Hey, John, just give us 1 second. Ann's going to bring him up.
Okay, good. All right.
Okay, I had to click on a button there to allow that. So, good morning, everyone. It's still morning here in Sarasota. A lot of you were on the call yesterday where we went through the process that the Risk Management Committee used to come to the resolution that we're presenting to you today. Rather than go through and take up everyone's time with the complete story, I'd like to open it up to any questions about the process that people might have and why we're making the recommendation that we are. It was a unanimous vote yesterday of the Risk Management Committee that we recommend the Chubb proposal to the Executive Board for your approval. That approval needs to happen very quickly because if we're going to switch to Chubb from Seven Corners, we have a very tight schedule to try to do it by October 1st. Puts another load on Chris, but we'll try to help him any way we can. And I've been assured from the Chubb side that they'll do anything they have to do to make sure that this gets up on time. So at this point, if anybody has any questions about the process and about why we're making the recommendation we're making, I'd be glad to try to answer those questions.
Ned, before we do that, in order to be legal and follow the procedures, could you, on behalf of your committee, make your recommendation to the board first? Then we'd have to have a second before we could even talk about it at the board level.
Okay, the Risk Committee moves acceptance of our recommendation that FMCA accept the Chubb proposal for the FMCA Assist program starting October 1st, 2020.
I'll second that.
And that was seconded by Rep Porter. Okay, now it's open for questions. Does anyone have any questions for Ned to get this discussion going?
What was the new amount? Sorry.
Call on Don Sloot. Hand up first, Don.
Ned, I should have asked this yesterday, but a transition from Seven Corners and with whatever policy or whatever claims they're working on right now, are they going to finish those claims or will those be transferred over to Chubb? And how long are we going to be having to pay the premium into Seven Corners if they continue on processing claims?
They will continue processing claims in what's called run out. And that is, even though our agreement with them will end September 30, we will have paid the September premium. Any claims that are in process will continue through to conclusion. That's very normal in the insurance game when people switch around. So I don't anticipate that we're going to have any issues there, but we will not start under the Chubb policy until October 1st. So any claims after October 1st, any filed after October 1st go to Chubb. Any claims that are filed prior to September 30 will go to Seven Corners for run out.
I'd like to ask the board and Ned, from the discussions I heard yesterday, there's of the three companies, the Chubb and the Travel Medevac are regulated by the state of Ohio as a regulated product. The Seven Corners is, although it's guaranteed by Lloyd's of London, it's not a regulated product, but it's worked fine. My question is, the COVID exclusion. Does the board have a problem or have any concerns about accepting a program for whatever the cost is that would exclude anyone from having COVID to use the program? I'm just throwing that out so we all understand it. Charlie Adcock.
So the SHUB, are they covering COVID or not? I wasn't on the call yesterday, so you know there's not much information out. If you wasn't on that call yesterday, all this is.
Chubb does not. I mean, Chubb has a COVID restriction, and Seven Corners have a COVID restriction. The Travel Medevac does not have a restriction on COVID.
Okay. Well, personally, it really wouldn't matter to me because if I got COVID and I was in Indiana, nobody would get in there to see me to start with till I got well. So, and the same way would apply if I was at home. So I'm not sure that's real important to me. I think we'll have a vaccine that will cure it all by the time that does become a problem. But that's opinion only.
All right. Anybody else? Joe Wright.
My question basically is with COVID exclusion, since we're primarily talking about motorhome return and repatriation, would those continue? Or somebody that has COVID on their own to get their motorhome back home or whatever?
Chubb and Seven Corners both exclude the benefits of the policy from anyone with COVID. Now, what Chubb would do if someone calls and files a claim is they would proceed to provide the service, whatever level of service is necessary. They don't wait for COVID or non-COVID, but if it turns out later it's COVID, they would have the right to try to get reimbursement, and that reimbursement may be from various people's other insurance or something like that.
Ned, do we have the option to authorize a return of a vehicle if they did have COVID, or can we have nothing to say about it?
We could under Chubb, and I'm sure under Seven Corners too, if we choose to, and there was a COVID excluded claim, we would have the option of deciding as an association to pay that claim. The only caution I would offer there is that we have no idea what the extent of any of this is, and neither do any of these companies. And it's going to be an extremely difficult thing to try to do. If we start paying claims, we would have a very difficult time stopping paying claims because we've established precedent. So that's something, if it ever comes up, we need to be very careful about. My belief is similar to Charlie's, that with the lack of travel now and other things and the way things are progressing, I don't know that this is going to, in reality, turn out to be a real problem. If it does, then we're going to have to deal with it as best we can.
Gary Milner.
Thank you. It seems like to me, though, if we have someone who's had COVID, has been identified with it, who would we run into any type of liability by bringing somebody into their RV and moving it at a later time? I mean, I'd be a little concerned of going in to move anybody's, excuse me, anybody's vehicle if they've been diagnosed with COVID. It just seemed like it'd be a liability there we should think about for what it's worth.
And Gary, I would agree we need to consider that, particularly because Seven Corners has, and Chubb would in the future, engage a professional driver to bring the coach back. And that could be an issue if the companies that provide those services are not willing to provide it unless the coach is completely decontaminated in some method to make it safe to drive. Say we're in just unknown territory on all these things.
Joe?
My understanding, unless I missed something yesterday, is this only applies as long as it's deemed a pandemic. Once that restriction's lifted, then everything goes away, if I'm correct.
Yes, you're correct. The Seven Corners proposal was just a flat COVID with no time limit or anything on it. What Chubb says in their contract is that their exclusion applies only if the World Health Organization declares it as a pandemic or an epidemic, and at some point that will cease to be the case. We don't know when that will be. Obviously, everyone's kind of trying to figure out what's going on in this brave new world.
Okay, for the record, Ned, would you give the board the pricing of each of these three companies that you talked to?
Okay, we had several responses. The actual, well, first of all, we had a response from MASA, and they're a name that may be familiar to many of you. They provide a very high level service, and they would reduce their premium to $468 a year, and that's probably a little above our budgetary ability. But what I'm going to recommend is that we work with MASA to perhaps offer a premium product as member purchase and give members the option. Starting from the most expensive of the remaining ones, Travel Medevac proposed a response that is underwritten by a company named Crum & Forster. It's a very large company, very solid underwriter, with the $500,000 limits that we currently have in place. And they bid that at 74 cents per F number per month. The next in terms of descending order was Seven Corners, and they proposed a COVID restriction, and the current contract we have, which we've worked with over the years, and I'm very comfortable with it, they proposed a rate this year dropping from 98 cents per member per month to 72 cents per member per month. Chubb is next in the list, and they proposed, again, Chubb and Seven Corners both retain the $500,000 limits on coverage. Chubb proposed 67.15 cents per member per month. And finally,
Ed, question. You're saying per member, is it per F number?
Per F number, yeah. If I say number,
Okay.
I mean F number.
Yeah.
Okay, and Travel Medevac proposed an alternative proposal backed by Nationwide Insurance, but the limits are reduced to $100,000, and they offered that at 62 cents. Our belief was that the best overall proposal was the Chubb proposal. We have long experience with Chubb, and it's been very good experience, and we feel that not only is the proposal good, but that the increased book of business may offer some opportunities for some savings on some of our other pieces of insurance. There's no guarantee of that, but we would certainly work for that. So that's the range of bids we have, and we feel that the 67.15 cent per F number per month is the best overall deal for FMCA.
Anyone else? Any questions, comments? Rhett?
Ned, on your, we didn't discuss yesterday, but will we get a report on the claims, the F numbers, not on necessarily what was done, but just the amount, and or even that they had a claim, so that we can follow up on those members and make sure that they had satisfactory service from Chubb?
I believe so. They have obligated themselves to provide us with reports on what they do, and again, within the bounds of HIPAA. And we would not ask for any specific information on any medical claim or anything else. But they have agreed that within the bounds of HIPAA, they'll provide us with data as similar to what Seven Corners has provided, and hopefully we'll be able to monitor the program and keep up on what's going on with that.
Could you also, Ned, review for the boards and the record, the loss ratio and how that affects these companies and possible future premium?
Okay, Seven Corners has over the years reduced the acceptable loss ratio. And I think Chris said we're now down to in the 20-some cent range. Chubb is giving us a proposal, has given us a proposal that says that they will not raise our premium in the future unless the loss ratio exceeds 60%. 60% is where we started with Seven Corners years ago, and they kind of whittled away at it. That 60% requirement is from the state of Ohio insurance regulator. So this hopefully, we will work with Chubb as we have on the liability insurance to keep our losses within bounds. And this hopefully will bring some stability to our budgeting process over the years. Over the last 5 years on Seven Corners, it's been kind of like a roller coaster at Coney Island. We've been up, we've been down, we've been everything. And it's made it very difficult for John and the finance committee and for Chris to kind of know what's going on. So we're hoping that we're able to keep, if we're not, if claims rise certainly well above that, then certainly the insurer is entitled to represent that in a premium increase, but they will not raise our premium unless we exceed that threshold.
Thank you. Anybody else? Gary? You're on mute, Gary. Gary, you're going to have to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, gotcha.
Okay. Ned, yesterday I heard them say the 5 cents difference between the 72 and the 67 would equate to about $45,000. I guess what I'd like to know, and you guys talked a little bit about it yesterday, but I didn't understand it all, where the nationwide plan, the last one you talked about, had a $100,000 cap, and the Chubb has a $500,000. Have we crossed that threshold very many times, or would you have that information?
I don't view the difference between 100 and 500 as bigger than all outdoors because we don't have a long history of claims exceeding the 100,000. We had one very large claim early. We've worked very hard with Seven Corners over the years to kind of keep things managed. So it's nice, obviously, to say that we've not had one doesn't mean that we're not going to have one. So the limits that we've had and we put out in the RFP, we're staying at the current 500. I don't know that the 100,000 would reduce the premium by any significant amount. That's just what Nationwide came in with as an alternative proposal. But no, we've not had a history of very large claims. Our history has been smaller claims, repatriation, return of vehicles, this kind of thing, with a few medical evacuation and fairly expensive repatriations of people who've had fairly serious things over the years. But other than early, we've not had a history of a lot of big claims.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Are you, I'm sorry, Betty?
Yeah, this is the first I've heard of Chubb because I've been out of pocket. I guess I didn't know there was a meeting yesterday, but could I, before I vote, find out how the coverage is comparable to Seven Corners and if it covers international travel?
It's a worldwide policy. The difference in the Chubb versus the Lloyd's of London, which is basically the Seven Corners. Seven Corners was told by Lloyd's to put a total COVID restriction on anything. The Chubb proposal on pandemic, epidemic requires that the World Health Organization so declare it. And not every incidence of flu or anything else becomes a pandemic. For example, as COVID started hitting us early in January, it was actually mid-March before the World Health Organization actually declared it a pandemic. And at some point they'll reduce that rating. But that's kind of the difference. The one is a blanket COVID, the other is a restriction on COVID or really any other pandemic. Happily, we don't have a lot of those.
But outside of COVID, it's comparable. They're comparable, the coverages.
The coverages are comparable in the sense that both are at the $500,000 limit. We think the stability of Chubb has some real value over Seven Corners, but the coverages are the same. Chubb accepted the types of coverage requirements that we have in the Seven Corner policy in terms of how we administer the policy and the benefits. So we're comfortable that we've got a continuity of coverage for the members.
Ned, how about the AD and D and the hospitalization?
Good point, Rep. Chubb has offered us an additional couple of benefits within that price. The first is what we call AD&D, which is accidental death and dismemberment. And they have a $5,000 maximum limit for loss of life and then a gradated schedule for various maladies and loss of limbs and hearing and things. But that would be a cash payment to the member. There is also a emergency room visit maximum of $250 that would be payable to a member if they have to go and be serviced by an emergency room. Many of the Medicare plans that people are on have a copay, or many of the private health insurance plans have a copay if you go to an emergency room or not. And then there is another emergency benefit that will pay $250 up to 3 days if you run into a problem. Now, those are things we do not have now. Chubb has told us that even if we asked for those to be pulled from the program, it would not affect the premium because that's in their base worldwide program. So that's an additional benefit for the members. Again, it's not huge, but that money could come in pretty handy depending on their circumstances.
Any other questions, Charlie?
Ned, excuse me. Ned, did you ask Chubb about the $100,000 limit and what it would change, what price change would be? Because if I remember, I'm like you. We had very, very few went over 100,000. They were sham jobs. One of them I know of.
Oh yeah, you and I both remember that first massive one out of Jacksonville. No, we did not, because when you look at the data, the only way a reduction in limits would affect premium is if that reduction in limits would diminish the number of claims that are paid. And frankly, going to the 100,000 probably really wouldn't serve anything. So if we get the 500, and Chubb looked at the same data that everybody else had, so they're very aware of what the claims volume was, and I'm sure internally they looked at it and didn't have a problem taking those limits because it's not likely we'll ever see it.
And I sort of look at what Charlie just said, because if that travel medevac was at 74 cents at the 500,000 and they dropped it to 62 cents at 100,000, it's, you know, layman's logic would think that the other ones could do the same thing. But
well, the problem there, John, is that those are two different policies underwritten by two different insurance companies. It's not apples to apples. Crum and Forster rated it at 74, nationwide at 62. So there really isn't a comparison. The other problem we had with Travel Medevac is that we didn't get very much detailed information to really know about the guts of what was behind those. It may be fine, we just don't know that. The other problem with the Travel Medevac that's underwritten by Nationwide is that Nationwide will not write insurance in the province of Quebec. And so all of our Quebec-based members would not be covered under the Nationwide Travel Medevac. Now, the principal of Travel Medevac thought he had a way to kind of get around that, but he hasn't provided or didn't provide before the meeting any kind of detailed information that would let us say that, okay, those members are covered. So as far as we can say right now, that policy would exclude Quebec.
Anybody else? Are you all comfortable with the program? Are you ready to vote? All right, you have a budget passed, and in effect, the 2021 budget includes the assist. So the reason for this vote is to decide which program we're going with. And the motion on the floor, based upon the recommendation of the committee, is to go with the Chubb plan. I'm going to have Kathy do a roll call just to make sure we're official on this one. Kathy, could you give us the roll call?
Yes. Jamie Erickson,
Yes.
Bob Galt,
Yes.
Ken Lewis,
Yes.
Gary Milner,
Yes.
Paul Mitchell. Paul Mitchell,
You're on mute.
Paul?
Yes. Yeah, I know.
Okay. Rhett Porter,
Yes.
John Reynolds, Don Sluice,
Yes.
John Trapphagen,
Yeah.
Joe Wright,
Yes.
Gay Young,
Yes.
Betty Duncan,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Unanimous, John.
Thank you. The motion passes. Now, since we already have a passed budget, I'd like to call on the National Treasurer, John Reynolds, to let the board know what the clerical changes would be by changing to this just now approved company on the line items affected. John, would you tell the board what the changes will be and what the total outcome to the budget will be for this?
Okay, thanks, John. We will remove from the budget the $900,000 we had in there to pay Seven Corners. We will put a premium of $573,209 in its place, which is what the Chubb policy is going to cost us. The bottom line, the operating loss that's in the budget now of $214,675.28 will become a surplus of $112,115.72.
Thank you very much. Good deal. All right, I'll adjourn this meeting. We'll go into the next one. The Board of Directors meeting. I call the meeting to order. Kathy, are you ready to give your report again for this corporation?
The minutes were approved for the June 15th and June 5th meeting of the Board of Directors by email, and they are on the website for your review. And I ask that they be accepted.
Any questions? Your minutes are accepted for file. New business, banking resolutions. Do you want me to read this all over again that's identical, or could someone make the motion we do have it on the record. Brett,
I'll move that we look at the records as presented to us and approve them as such.
Second it.
John Reynolds second. Oh, thank you. But I did bring water. Any discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes. All right, this meeting's adjourned, and I'd like to thank everybody for taking your time. Also for the gallery people out there, there will be some free gift certificates drawn, and Penny told me that you'll be notified by email if you're one of the winners, and then we'll post those winners sometime on the website or somewhere. Again, welcome aboard, everybody. And for a future meeting, we're trying to work with a national authority on nonprofit associations, and he's going to give us some workshops on the role of staff, the role of executive boards, the role of governing boards, on how nonprofits function, and be emphasizing best practices for nonprofits. So we're still working. I forget the guy's name, but he's a nationally known speaker and authority on nonprofit.
Let me take my phone and send it in Boston, and thank you. No, excellent job.
Gary, you're on. Gary, get on mute.
Sorry.
Anyway, that's coming up. All right. See you all later. Thanks a lot. We'll see you.